in your head.
Oh, good morning, Mairi. We are live, and thank you so much for agreeing to come on and share your wonderful wealth of expertise in the menopause, alternative treatments, etc. So I will let you go ahead, Mairi, and introduce yourself, who you are and what you do.
Okay, so as always, thank you for welcoming me on board. It's been wonderful to work with you through your whole journey of Secret Whispers, because we've kind of been dancing alongside each other for quite a while now, and sharing and supporting. So today I'm showing up as the menopause rock star, powered by crystals, oils and juice. So I am here to empower and enlighten women to help them rewrite their menopause story, because I believe that we have been left out in the pasture, out to pasture, or put out in the paddock with no information, feeling completely discombobulated, as if the wheels of the bus have fallen off, that we're going mad and there's nothing that we can do about it. And it's been fabulous to follow this series that you've been running, Julie, because you've had some amazing speakers coming on and sharing the whole wide spectrum of support that women can have, because this is the thing. One, there is support, and two, which is where I sit, is we can empower ourselves. And when we are enlightened consumers of this wonderful and unique body and mind that is ours, and understand just a little bit more, we can start to make the lifestyle choices and decisions that are going to help us find our way back home. So really, for me, I'm here to walk beside you, guide you, and offer you that buffet of options, alternative and complementary options through diet, lifestyle, to support you on your menopause journey. Because although someone will probably throw something at the screen when I say this, it's a gift. It is actually a natural process, with the caveat that obviously we both fully understand that for some women it's not a natural process. They may be medically induced, they may go into it early, there may be a whole myriad of reasons why women go through menopause. So we're not disrespecting or ignoring that. But if we take a step back, for most of us, it's a natural process, it's a rite of passage, it's an opportunity to transform and rebirth ourselves, let go of what no longer serves us, and step in to the third and final act of our life. And given that most of us are going to be around for at least 30, 40 years post-menopause, we want to be rocking that rather than sitting in a rocking chair.
Well, this is it. This is why I love getting different women on to speak, and it's a different perspectives, and it's a different way of thinking, and everyone will align to somebody else, and I get to learn so much about the menopause. So when I do hit it, I am so well prepared, and that's what I want for every woman to understand.
Absolutely, yeah.
It is going to happen. It is going to happen. There is no preventing it. It's going to happen, and you want to be as well informed, as well educated, know every option, and then you decide what's the right one for you.
Absolutely.
Being informed is key to this. And you did touch on going into early menopause, and I get a lot of messages about this. And what's really important, I found as well, is women will find they've went into early menopause, which is usually 35 to 40, they call early, isn't it? It can't even be earlier than that.
Oh, yeah, there's women who are in their 20s go into menopause, but I think we need to make sure that we know what we mean by menopause.
Yes, but the other thing was, I've had some women say, well, when I mentioned to my mother that I'm going through early menopause, and the mother would say, oh yeah, that happened to me. So as a mother, you are responsible for letting your children know, because it is hereditary as well. Don't let it just be a massive shock. So explain to us, what is the menopause?
Okay, I'm just going to dial back a bit, because I think you've made a really, really, really important point there, Julie. And you know, it needs to be discussed. And like you say, you know, for me, I work with a lot of women, perimenopause, menopause and beyond. And I'm really passionate about doing what I call coming downstream. And also, you know, I had a really enlightened mother. You know, I didn't live in a house where we didn't talk about periods and didn't talk about this and that, but we never discussed menopause. And with what I now know, I know that my mum had quite a difficult time through her menopause. And also I know that at the age that I am now, so I'm 53 when we're recording this, my mum had already had a hysterectomy, you know, and she'd been in a lot of pain and a lot of discomfort. So I do want to share, because it's been part of my mission, is to understand that your history does not have to be your destiny. And this is all around the science of epigenetics and the fact that we can influence our genes through our lifestyle, through our food, so nutrigenomics. So as much as it's important to know and understand your mother's story or your grandmother's story, you don't then need to wear that as your cloak and go, well, there's nothing I can do. I'm going to go through this as well. Because I can say from my perspective, I haven't had the same experience as my mum, because I had lived a very different life, different lifestyle, etc., etc. So I just wanted to really put that out there, because I think your point is so poignant. You know, I want to do talks to mums and daughters about periods, like the whole menstrual cycle. And I've approached some of my clients about it, and they've said, I would love that, but I know my friend won't talk to her daughter about her periods. So we're about to go into 2021, and we're still living with Victorian values around the female body. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. But it's just such an important point that you brought up.
It is. It's how you deal with it and how you frame things as well in your mind. You know, I'm a big believer in mind over matter and reframing negatives into a positive. And like you say, it's how your lifestyle, the foods that you eat, the exercise, and how you deal with it. So so you don't have to just take it as this is going to happen to me. My mother had a bad experience. You know,
so what can I do?
Right, well, far away. Tell us what the menopause is.
So let's just remind everybody what the menopause is. So the menopause is one day. It's the last day of your last period, followed by 365 days of no period. So it's a historical date. So that makes it quite interesting for some people to go, oh, well, when is it? So I know that I knew this year on my 53rd birthday, which was on the 6th of June, that if I carried on having no periods, I would be in my post-menopause. Although one could argue there's no such thing as post-menopause, because once you're in menopause, you're in menopause.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the only reason I knew that is because for my 52nd birthday, we'd gone on holiday and I'd had a period, and I was in that phase of erratic periods, so didn't know when, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, we're on holiday, tra-la-la. And then was like, oh, no period, oh, hang on, no period. And I was like, now we're at December, no period. So then in my head, I was going, well, if it carries on, so it's worth keeping a note. What a lot of women are managing and dealing with and frustrated by is perimenopause. So perimenopause can be up to 15 years of discombobulation. So that's my technical word.
Discombobulation.
You feel like the wheels of the bus have fallen off. So given that the average age of menopause is 51, if we go back 15 years, I make it really simple and basically say any woman over the age of 36 is probably moving into the perimenopause, which is when your progesterone, you're balancing, anxiety supporting calming hormone starts to drop. No wonder all of a sudden we start to feel more anxious, more stressy, more irritable. And also then our estrogen levels will start to drop as well, which is what gives us energy and is sort of like gives us our va-va-voom, our drive and our motivation. So as those start to lower, this is when we can start to see some of the symptoms of menopause or perimenopause. But fundamentally, perimenopause and menopause, perimenopause is leading up to, menopause is a historical date. And then depending on your lifestyle, your mindset, as you quite rightly keep reminding everybody, global pandemics, all of homeschooling, trying to run your side, blah, 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 blah. All of those things will start to have an impact on how your body is able, or more importantly, chooses to make that estrogen and progesterone. Because if your body feels like you're constantly under attack, which could be a saber-toothed tiger or just trying to get through a day of homeschooling without killing everybody, your body and your mind know no different. So they will produce the stress hormones and will be like, well, we're not producing estrogen and progesterone. We're not worried about procreation and all the rest of it. This woman needs to survive the onslaught of whatever the stress is that's coming at her. So again, I think it's really timely that you've been running this program and this sequence of talks, because I'm quite sure there's a number of women who have potentially been pushed into more discombobulation because of our current external environment and our feelings of lack of control and our concerns about our elderly parents and the kids and who's going to get isolated today and what does that mean for my job. So very simply, menopause is one day, perimenopause is that bumpy journey where we're clinging on for dear life, powering through and just hoping we make it without killing ourselves. And this is where we can feel we've lost ourselves as well, because all of a sudden the power woman, the woman who could take on anything, is the crying wreck in the corner, screaming at everybody and wanting to divorce her husband every 2 weeks of the month.
Yes, and I know women who have left their jobs rather than speak to their manager and explain. They've went from being able to stand up in a boardroom very confident, can take on any challenge, to the anxiety. The confidence has just hit rock bottom.
Absolutely.
They would prefer to sit on a till in Tesco's than speak to their manager. And that is heartbreaking, because they you never get over that either.
No.
And it's to let women understand this is normal for many women, and you don't have to be on your own. There is support and help available, which then gives them the confidence to approach that subject with their manager.
Yeah, and I'm going to be really naughty here, and you can tell me off afterwards, but I'm going to jump on that, because one of the things that I've been doing is I will come and talk to people's work.
Good.
So if anybody who's watching this on replay or live is thinking, oh my God, I'd love somebody to come in and have a well-being talk and talk about this subject matter, I am more than happy to come in and have that conversation with you. If it's part of a well-being initiative that you're running at work, and just start demystifying and bringing it normal, because like you, I want to take these conversations from behind the water cooler and behind the back of the hand, and this is a natural process. There is nothing to be embarrassed about, but also, I totally understand it. If you're a power, you're in a board meeting, or and all of a sudden you're getting that red flush and you're getting hot and clammy and you're starting to sweat and everyone's of course, because, our image is then getting distorted, brain fog, so we're no longer, and we just think we can't do it anymore. No, what we need to do is calm the frank down, look at what is going in on around our life. And I think that's one of the beauties of this year, because it has to a degree. And again, please don't throw anything at the screen, because I know some people have worked harder and longer than ever. But for a lot of us, we have been given the opportunity to go at a slightly slower pace, because we can't go out and do, you know, the 6,000 kids parties at the weekend after we've just done a, you know, worked all week, and then with mum's taxi all weekend. We've been forced to sort of stay local and a bit more quiet, and we should be taking advantage of that, because that, you know, those ways. So there's lots of lifestyle interventions and ways of working that, as you said, can keep women in work. Because again, from an industry perspective, think of that knowledge loss, think of, you know, that experience that we're losing from our businesses. And all we really need to be able to do is look at how can we support, what adaptations can we make, you know, what lifestyle interventions, you know, something as simple as making sure that you know, everyone's drinking enough water, because I've definitely found the more hydrated I am, the less hot flushes I get.
Makes sense, doesn't it? So say somebody is thinking, right, you know, I have noticed my anxieties went up, I'm more irritable, I think I might be in perimenopause. So you've mentioned progesterone and estrogen reducing, and they do go like that. What can you do? Is there any way of getting that back up? Is there any way of adding that? Is it possible?
Yeah. So two options. Again, great questions. The first, I mean, the gold standard is to go and get tested. Yeah, so you can, there's something called a Dutch test, which is like the gold standard of testing. You can't get it done on the NHS. It's a private thing, but it basically is like a full MOT. It is the absolute gold standard. And I'm just waiting to get my results in the next couple of weeks, and then I'm going to share them.
So the NHS can't do a test to tell if you're in perimenopause?
It can, but it's not as good as the Dutch test.
Okay.
The Dutch test is the absolute gold standard. The NHS can do a test, but if the test isn't done on the 21st day of your cycle, and if it comes back saying, well, you're normal and you just work with the blood test, but don't look at the whole big picture and everything else that's going on. There are thousands of women who get tested, are told everything's normal, and they're sat there going, but I feel rubbish. I don't feel like I'm me anymore, because they use a normal distribution curve. So you could be at either end of that normal distribution and still told you're normal. But if you're a point that way, you wouldn't be. And if you're a point that way, you wouldn't be.
And what does this Dutch test involve then?
So the Dutch test is a dry urine test, and you have to take it 5 times through the day. So it's measuring your cortisol through the day as well, your estrogen, your progesterone. It's looking at your full circadian rhythm. And that's important, because obviously women and men cycle, because men can have, my partner's had a Dutch test done as well. We all cycle through 24 hours. So we need to look at what's going on through our full 24-hour cycle. I will be very surprised if my test doesn't come back and show that my cortisol's flatlined a little bit, because I've been running at life for 100 years, and I've lived with a lot of trauma, a lot of grief that I've not dealt with and powered through, and all those sorts of things. And so I will be doing a live and sharing. Now the great thing is, because not everyone can afford to go and have a Dutch test, is yes, of course, if you can get the test on the NHS, great, and the doctor understands perimenopause, because a lot of doctors may not. Then, and I'm not being disrespectful, that's just based on all the evidence and what we're sharing. what also comes in, so, you know, someone might then need some HRT, or they might need some, you know, bioidentical hormones, but also where I work is, let's look at your lifestyle, because one of the biggest ways we can support the body to start naturally producing estrogen and progesterone again is to calm down, is to look at rest-based living. So looking at how we are moving through life, sleep and sleep hygiene. What chemicals are we putting on our skin? Which is why I'm a huge advocate of essential oils and natural skincare products. What are you puffing out? You know, have you got a whole load of stinky candles and, you know, plugins? They can all be hormone disruptors. How are you eating? What are your bowel movements like? Because if you're not going for a poo every day, we need to be focusing on that. Are you hydrated enough? Are you eating the right diet for you? Do you need to remove toxic relationships from your life? Is there enough joy and laughter in your life? All of these things. Are you getting out and connecting in nature enough? All of these things go towards calming your system down and helping it. So that for me is one of the things, because the lady that I'm working with on the Dutch test, we are very aligned with the lifestyle interventions that go along with, as well as saying, have this or take that. Let's look, it's time for personal transformation. It's time for reevaluating and just seeing, you know, how we live. Have we got some comments coming up?
I'm not sure. It's hard to see what's going on. There was something, I think, coming in. But just to clarify, is there any quick and easy way of getting progesterone and estrogen into your system?
Yeah, bioidentical hormones.
Okay, and what are those?
So they are made. So depending on which brand you're going for, they are made and they've been created. So bioidentical hormones is another version of HRT, to make it really simple to the layperson. So you just, you know, you might get a cream that you put on the inside of your thigh or in the crook of your elbow, and it's just going to get absorbed into the bloodstream and help to rebalance the system.
So can the doctor measure if how much you're lacking in progesterone and estrogen, and then decide?
They should be able to, and this is something that a lot of women, you need to make sure that, again, historically it used to be a one size fits all. And also I've worked with a number of women who've maybe been on HRT or bioidenticals, and once we've started to change and adapt their lifestyle, they have then chosen to reduce or come off because they've realized that they no longer need that to support themselves. But again, you know, for me, it's all about being an informed consumer and making the right choices for yourself. So absolutely, if you need HRT or bioidentical, great. But this...
Oh, you're frozen, Mairi.
Oh, your mindset, all those kinds of things.
No, you're back now. You're back now.
Yeah, we're both sort of like zoomed out. And
oh, it has a mind of its own. So let's see what other questions. So once you are in the perimenopause, which can last up to 15 years, and then you hit the menopause, are the symptoms in the menopause easier or harder?
No, it completely depends on what's going on in your life. It really, you know, I mean, obviously post that menopause, things should start to calm down, because that perimenopause is that rocky road where everything's sort of bubbling, you know. In an ideal world, and you know, there are women out there, like the women whose kids slept through, you know, as babies. Shh, don't tell anyone. But you know, it should just be a natural decline. I mean, obviously, not obviously, because a lot of women may not know this. You know, through your monthly cycle, your estrogen and your progesterone switch over between, you know, first phase to second phase during switch over at ovulation. So as we come into perimenopause, things decline, things may start to get a little bit erratic. You know, I know for me, I might have 2 periods, 1 month, then skip a month, you know, so you're kind of a little bit all over the place. And then post-menopause, everything should start to calm down. And we find ourselves back in a bit of a groove. And we kind of hang around. You know, we don't have no estrogen and we don't have no progesterone, but they're both at that low phase because we don't need the peak and the trough of each month to help us get pregnant. We're no longer in that procreation mode. We're now in that sort of wise woman, you know, we should be balanced, you know. For me, because we sort of hang around at the ovulatory phase where we're almost in our sort of goddess, our natural mother and lover, you know, we're much more connected. Hopefully we understand who we are, what we want in our lives. But if post-menopause, you haven't made the changes, you haven't done the work, you are running yourself ragged and still in what we call superwoman mode, trying to be everything to everyone, and aren't listening to your body, it can carry on being pretty darn awful. And I've certainly had clients who maybe have swam through the menopause, then get to their late 50s, early 60s, maybe they become a grandma, maybe they find them bobbing up and down, you know, no boundaries. They've become yes, and you know, they're just running their lives around their kids and their grandchildren. Again, maybe you've got an elderly parent who's not doing particularly well, and you're traveling around trying. All of a sudden, you could get hot flushes again. You could get brain fog, because if you're not nourishing yourself and looking after yourself, the small amount of estrogen and progesterone that you naturally will be making to keep you balanced, the body again will go, oh, this is a woman in crisis. We'll stop making that. We're going to flood our system with adrenaline and cortisol, and all of a sudden, hot flushes, brain fog, boobs and belly, because that's, you know, that for me, they're just stress responses. So it is about constantly staying in tune, staying connected, and balancing life out. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean there won't be pinch points, but looking at, so for example, this year my mum's husband died, and I knew that I had to go up to their house in Scotland, which I couldn't get to for months because obviously the lockdown in Scotland was different to England. And I knew that I was going to go up there. I hadn't been in the house for a few years, and you know, I needed to clear it out and all the rest of it. So in preparation for that, I closed elements of my business down. I made sure that I wasn't having any sugar. I was hydrated. I took my oils with me. I stayed in a nice hotel. Now, some of you people might be thinking, oh, bully for you that you could do all of that. But they were the choices I made because I knew the situation was going to be challenging and traumatic enough without putting what we call scaffolding around me to support me to be able to manage the situation.
No, it absolutely makes total sense. And if we're all honest with ourselves, we know when we go like that, that we go like that. And you need to be, instead of fighting it, you need to go with it. So I know for myself, I did something a few months ago that really took it out of me. And afterwards, I was way up here. I mean, way up there. And what I'd done before I'd done this event is I'd booked a 2-night in a hotel, the husband and I, and literally I did just sleep for 2 days because I knew what it was going to do to me. And if I'd have came home with the children, I would have kept going. And then that slouch would have lasted maybe a week instead of just a couple of days. So
absolutely,
well-being is so important. And I'll admit I'm the worst one for not looking after myself sometimes, but I am better. That's the main thing, little steps.
The only reason I know all of this is because of the journey that, you know, well, one, obviously I've studied it, but two, because of the journey I've been on for myself. And I can really tell when I'm doing the things that when I walk my talk, I feel so much, better, so much more empowered, so much more balanced. I mean, with the greatest respect, God bless all of the men who've lived with hormonal women who are misinformed, who don't understand how what they're eating and drinking and the lifestyle that they're living is impacting on them. I've been working with a client this year, and, the biggest success story is she doesn't want to divorce her husband every month because she no longer has that for 2 months, 2 weeks of the month, because we've looked at her nutrition, we've looked at her mindset, we're using essential oils to help reduce stress and calm and, de-stress her. She's got a mindset now of looking after herself and making sure that she's on the top of the priority list rather than serving everyone else first. So it's those old cliches of, you want to make sure that your cup is full first, but more importantly, you want to serve from the overflow, not from just the full cup. So we want to be so abundant in our own well-being that what spills over is what we can then give and gift to others. And I'm the same as you. I used to run events and then would come back and on the Monday be straight into work mode. And, you'd just be... And then you'd get ill, wouldn't you, as well? And you make a good point, because for women, when we're menstruating, that is meant to be a time of going within. It's meant to be a time of quiet and stillness. Doesn't make us the weaker sex. It doesn't do any of that. But if we could honor that element of our cycle, get a little bit quieter, track our periods so we know when we're having them, make sure that during our period there's an opportunity maybe to do legs up against the wall yin yoga, or just go to bed early and sleep and rest and nourish. Like you said, we will actually come out revitalized, re-energized, and able to do more in the following 2 or 3 weeks than if we stay depleted and moving through without any replenishment and nourishment.
It is. It's so true. So true. And you touched on men, and I know from personal experiences when I've been anywhere, men want to know how to do Kegel exercise, how to support their partners, their wives. So they do want to be involved. They're probably afraid to ask for fear of getting their head bit off, but share with your partner, your husband, share with your friends and family. And the more you share and talk about it, the more other people feel, oh, she's talking about it. Well, I'm going to talk about it. And then it creates this great community. But men do want to know.
They do. And men get pelvic floor, dysfunction as well.
Exactly. And
men get rectal dysfunction. And I've worked with men post prostate or bladder surgery, and we use the whole pelvic floor exercise, Kegel type idea, to help them make that reconnection. And actually, I've worked with a couple of men where we've actually managed to stop them, leaking post surgery while they were waiting the 9 weeks for the incontinence nurse to come and come and support them. And also, as well, for men, and I think this is important, I know you've got sons, but we need, if they're educated and they understand. I mean, I'm going to give an example, and I don't know if anyone else has noticed. Do you watch Gogglebox? Okay, so Gogglebox, Channel 4, Friday night. I love it. Basically, you're watching people watching TV.
I know, that's why I don't watch it.
Honestly, it's I love it. It's such a great show, and you feel. But there's a mum on there. There's a mum on there, and bless her. You can. For me, she's doing a few things. So 1 week she couldn't find a phone, and it was in the fridge. So her son was sat there going, "Oh my God, Mum, you're going crazy." No, she's probably going through her menopause.
Oh yeah.
And then the next week, she'd only put makeup on one eye. So she's basically, and her husband and her son are looking at her quite rightly. And how many other women are doing that? And like you said, going back to that confidence, whereas if everybody understood, Because, you know, a bit like you, for me, if you're over 40, you're in perimenopause, I'm really sorry. I don't care what any doctor says. Let's just take the approach that we're in our perimenopause, we're on that journey towards the menopause. So let's start making the lifestyle interventions that are going to support us rather than pretending. And also for me, you know, again, getting older is a privilege, aging is a choice. So, you know, let's not be afraid. Let's celebrate being 50 and let's celebrate 60, 70 and beyond. As long as we're there, vital, vavavoom, you know, and turning up and rocking up. But I'm not sure where I was going with all of this because I've gone off on a soapbox. But men.
Yeah, well, it's like my sons.
They understand. They can support. They can say, "Oh, Mummy, have you drank your water today?" Or, "Mummy, did you sleep okay?" Or maybe, you know, everybody, "Mummy, Mummy, I've ran you a bath because I think you need." How lovely would that be?
Exactly, that is it. And you were just talking about educating from a young age. So my 11 and 8-year-old sons, well, that's how old they are now, they crack me up. They know about the pelvic floor, about periods. And this bit makes me laugh. If anybody happens to say, "Oh, stop, I'm going to wet myself laughing," my 11-year-old is straight in there going, "Oh, well, you need to be thinking about your pelvic floor then." I love it. But that's the way it should be. It should be normal conversations, but at the same time, understanding just how important these topics are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, how lucky are the partners of your boys going to be? Because, you know, there will be support and post-pregnancy, you know, if they decide, you know, that wherever their lifestyles go or whatever partners they choose. But that element, you know, of support. Now, again, it's this really interesting. Let's talk about pelvic floor coming up to menopause.
Yes,
because again, this is where, as our estrogen levels start to drop, we start to lose that sort of tensile strength of the pelvic floor muscles. So all of a sudden, women can find that they're starting to leak or they've got incontinence. And when you actually maybe ask a few more questions, so for me, if I was working with somebody and that was a concern for them, I'd be wanting to know, well, what kind of birth did you have? And the number of women who'll go, "Oh, I had a tear or I had a C-section," as if it was nothing. And because, again, a lot of women aren't taught to massage the scar tissue of the pelvic floor, particularly if you've had a, you know, severe tear, or to massage and do work around C-section recovery.
Yes.
Then what you find is as they come into perimenopause, all of a sudden that scar tissue can start to give them some pelvic floor dysfunction because everything's out of alignment and they've no longer got the estrogen. So again, the more work we can do downstream, the more awareness we can build. So what's been really interesting, because I've been working with a pelvic floor physio. So she's done something that's called the Mummy Mot, and there's a network.
I know the Mummy Mot well.
Yeah. So the Mummy Mot. So I've had a Mummy Mot.
Brilliant. Highly recommend it. And I personally, every woman should have a Mummy Mot, say pelvic floor physio, twice a year, just like going to the dentist. While you're not looking after your pelvic floor, you need to take it seriously. It is your core. And you need to be looking after it just like you do your teeth.
So let me share my insight. So I do have, and I will openly, there have been moments, and it's particularly when my self-care and I'm very tired. So when I'm tired, so I'm depleted, when I'm not looking after myself and walking my talk, I can suffer a little bit of stress incontinence. And I can also suffer latchkey incontinence. As in, oh my God, I need to make it to the toilet. Now, what was really interesting when I had my Mummy Mot was we discovered that I have got diastasis. So I've got separation of my abdominal muscles from below my belly button to just above my pubis symphysis. Now, I've never had a child. So what's going on? what's really interesting is where there is softness and you can poke through is where I've had a belly button ring, a laparoscopy, so I've got scar tissue where they've gone in and done very minor incisions, but the gaps in my linea alba are exactly where I have cut through my fascia.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense then, that if I'm not, that I'm starting to lose some connectivity. And also what we've discovered is because of that scar tissue, I can be a little bit tight in this area. So I'm actually doing a load of exercises, back bends, to open up and re-stretch this scar tissue that over the year. And because I've been sat a lot, so when I'm sat, this area is getting really tight and short as well, and so it no longer can contract in the way it's good. So I'm really interested to know, again, if there's any women in your community, start thinking about, was I tearing? Did I have tears at birth? Have I ever had a belly button ring? Have I ever had any surgery like a C-section, laparoscopy, anything at all where they may have gone through? And then again, like you say, get yourself to a Mummy Mot or women's health physio who can work with you. Start working on that scar tissue. Think about how you need to open and get your body moving again. And then think about your nutrition as well, because again, the more hydrated we are, the better off. It seems like a bit at cross purposes, but the more hydrated we are, the better our muscle tissues work. I find taking omega-3s is really supportive as well in that way. So, there's some really amazing, empowering tools that we can be doing. So like you say, maybe someone wants to get a Dutch test, maybe you want to have a Mummy Mot at least once a year. For me, it's been a real insight, because what we also discovered was I have plantar fascia. I've got plantar fasciitis this year, and we've been working around it. And now
what is that? You have to enlighten us all.
So what's plantar fasciitis? So plantar fasciitis, I'll show the other foot. It's like she goes, I won't show it. It's like a pain. It's like somebody is put a needle into the sole of my foot. So it's really, really, really painful. So we've looked at my foot, and then we've looked coming up my calves, and is it my quad? Guess what? It's my pelvic floor. Because in Mummy Mot, you get a little bit of trigger point and releasing. But since I've been doing the back bends and opening up my front line, guess what? The rest of my body has been able to get itself back. So the pain in my foot has dissipated since I've started doing back bends. And I do that. I've got a Swiss ball, or you could put a load of towels, and I'm just reaching backwards and just allowing a lovely stretch through the front of my body. So you could even think like a cobra stretch in a yoga pose, something that's just going to open up my front line, and it stops my foot hurting.
I actually do those stretches every day because of my lower back, and I've got it now that I can go right far back, just standing up with my arms back, and it is lovely releasing it. But I didn't think about it for just down in my pelvis area, so it's good to know that. One more quick question, Mairi, because I've had a few people ask about it. If you're not in perimenopause and say you're in your 30s, etc., and you have a hysterectomy, now we know that's going to bring on perimenopause.
Or menopause,
What should you be prepared for? And is there anything you can do to be ready, if that makes sense?
What, if you've got a hysterectomy coming?
Yeah, so I've got a few women I know they've got one scheduled, and they've been asking questions, and they're obviously they want to make sure they're well equipped, but they're
so one of the things obviously to be aware of, and it's a little bit similar to if you have a C-section birth, is your hormones don't get the chance to naturally move and change. It's sort of kind of a one-stop shop. So I would be looking again at all of the lifestyle interventions. For some women, obviously, then they'll automatically go on to HRT, depending, or bioidentical hormones, depending on what type of hysterectomy they have. Be prepared, because you may be in that position, hot flushes, brain fog, etc., etc. So it's a real opportunity to look at overall lifestyle. So the things I look at is rest-based living. So, do you need honour the surgery and give yourself time to recover? And also with this is a real opportunity to start to receive some care.
Yes.
That I think that would go a long way to a lot of women healing and recovery. So you may be going straight into the hot flushes, the brain fog, etc., etc. So things to think about is are you eating for hormone good hormone related foods? So lots of green vegetables, again, your omega-3s, obviously depending on your food choices, either plant or animal based. Lots of good fiber, because obviously you want to make sure that the system, your system's working, because one of the things about estrogen is we produce it and should lose it, and the metabolites should get pooped out of the body every day. Are we hydrated? But also I think one of the things that's really important to be aware of is you may still get menopausal symptoms again at the time that you would have naturally got it. And that's not shared with a lot of women, because again, I've worked with a number of women who'll say, but I had a hysterectomy in my 30s. Yeah, but your body is still programmed. There are other things that go on and change during that time of menopause.
That's really interesting.
So be prepared for maybe a bit of a double bubble. But if you're getting ready now and start making those lifestyle interventions, then it should be smoother again. But, so that is something that surprises a lot of women, because they're like, well, I've had a hysterectomy. Yeah, but your body is programmed to do something at 51, 52, 53. So it will solve or support whatever is going on maybe for you at the moment. But again, for me, it's a real opportunity to look at lifestyle and mindset, and take this opportunity to reevaluate and put changes in that are going to support you. So for me, I take a very, very, very simplistic view that it's the same thing all the way through. And what's interesting is a lot of the lifestyle interventions that one would put in place for supporting your menstrual cycle, supports your menopause, but also the things that support the offset or delay of Alzheimer's. It's not about one pill for this and one pill for that. Fundamentally, disease will show up. For you, it might show up as X, but for me, it shows up as Y. But if we're looking at it from a holistic perspective, it's the same interventions. Like both of us know, drinking our water, surrounding ourselves with good people, getting out in nature, Epsom salt baths, eating the right foods, that keeps you in a good place for your unique self, and it keeps me in a good place for my unique self. And I'm not anti-medication. It may be that for some women and men, their magic formula is a bit of medication, but also some lifestyle interventions. But also as well, I would say for post-hysterectomy is, again, a Mummy Mot might not be a bad thing to put on your wish list as part of your, okay, now I'm in this place, what do I now need to do? What do I need to check or look? Maybe some support with scar tissue, because again, the female health physios, Mummy Moters, they can do deep fascial release that will help release the stickiness in the body of the scar tissue. And I don't think And again, sometimes with a hysterectomy, because we can't see scar tissue on the outside, we don't think about what's going on the inside.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that, Mairi. I've learned a lot as usual, which is why I love doing these chats. So anything else you'd like to mention before we go? And obviously at the end, Mairi will pop in her links, etc., so you can go and find her if you wish to talk to her after this.
No, I think what I would finish with is your history is not your destiny. So if you are a woman who's been suffering with really bad periods, is completely detached and hates everything about the female cycle, then you can change your future. It's about an invitation to be kind to yourself and to know that being a woman is a wonderful thing. We just need to look after ourselves, and that I think is the gift that lockdown has maybe given quite a few of us. And then the other message is to embrace menopause, because as I say, it's a privilege denied many. It's a real opportunity to transform, step into your power, rewrite your third and final act, and start to live your life the way that you want to live it. It's about setting boundaries. It's about knowing your worth. And these are all things that are really difficult for a lot of women to appreciate. So, this is just an invitation, and to have those conversations with your partner and your families, because, the more we talk, the more we understand, the more we open up, the better they can. My partner knows. He's like, oh, stay away from the sugar. And, and he'll say that. And I've given him permission, because sometimes that's, it's that don't buy me chocolate, go and get me chocolate kind of thing. So I'm waffling a little bit, but the story really is that it's wonderful to be a woman. I've never had an issue with being a woman, but as I've got older, I'm really appreciating the gifts that we bring to the party. And we're not small men. So we need to stop thinking of ourselves as small men from a medical perspective, from a fitness perspective, and from a nutrition perspective, because we are women and we are unique, and we need to value that, appreciate it, and step into it.
I love that. That is amazing. Listen, Mairi, thank you so much. And hopefully we will have you on again soon. And we will say goodbye to everybody now.
Thank you. Take care.
I really, really appreciate your time.
You're welcome, as always.